Hi, Beth Neville, back for Art and Life. It's now late afternoon, and this morning, when we filmed the first episode, we had wonderful quiet. Today, right now, this afternoon, we have somebody with a whining saw or a clipper or some annoying sound. So please try to ignore the landscapers and focus on me and what I'm trying to do. As you can see, I've made a lot of progress with this painting. I've painted on it for about 2 hours, and in many respects it's very typical of my artwork. I'm an unconventional painter. I tend to be much bolder in the way I design things, with more striking contrasts, a little less interested in complete realism. I try to get the idea across. So the unorthodox thing about this painting is the very vivid reds and maroons against the olive greens. So most people, most artists would want to be more conventional in their color choice, but that's not me. I've always wanted to be bold and non-conventional. So what I like about this so far is using the olive green, pure, out of the tube, no modulation, to form a background for the yellow-green of the clematis leaves and the roses. Oh, by the way, for those who are just tuning in this week, the topic here is painting roses and clematis, and I believe they're visible in the background. Robert, they are. My husband Robert is doing the filming. He's going to focus briefly on our beautiful clematis and rose garden that we have here. It's been many years in growing and developing, and we're very pleased with how it looks this year. This is the height of the bloom. So what I'm doing now is, the first design had only the rose and the one clematis flower, but I thought that had those two strong shapes sitting on top of the green background. So I want to get that color behind the background to give it a more complex imagery. So I'm going to try to replicate the clematis behind the vine. Now that's a complex thing to do because you kind of lose track of where you're at. And so I did what I described last week, for those who were watching last week, and that is no cheating in art. Anything that works is okay. I put a piece of paper down over the clematis, traced around the imagery, and cut it out, and then put that down here to try to give me an idea about where that flower would be located. And even doing that, I've still gotten mixed up about where it would be. So what I'm going to do now, as you're watching, I'm going to try to fill in some of the missing parts here, and I'm going to check with Robert. Maybe what we need to do is to come in a little bit closer with the camera and focus more on the painting technique. This is really going to be mainly about my painting and trying to get this painting finished. I doubt that we'll be able to get it finished today, but you can see what I'm doing. What I'm trying to do here is to be very careful with the edges, because the edges of the maroon, where I'm brushing in here, are going to define where the leaf is. So I have to slow down here and think about what I'm doing is painting the negative shape. Let's put it that way. I'm painting the negative, and the leaves are the positive. So painting negative is always harder than painting positive. Basically, you're painting the background, you're painting the leftover spaces. That's another reason why I did that cutout, because trying to envision the leftover spaces is usually more difficult. In fact, I find it always more difficult. So here we are painting the the shapes of the clematis behind. This is not satisfactory. I'm not happy with the shape, in spite of the fact that I cut out the symbol. We've lost the openness in here. Can you see that the petals, the interior part has gotten lost? So what I'm going to do is to let this dry, and this will not happen while I'm filming. This is going to dry, and when it dries, I will go back and deal with the background. Now, what I want to do now is to use a different green, a sap green, which is very different. This was olive green. In fact, you know what I should do? I should finish out with the olive green down here. So that means I need to clean out this brush. All right, I brought my cleaning silicone down here in the garden, and Scott towel. All right, we've cleaned the brush off. We need to get out more sap green. Here, there's the sap. And we need to add more of our artist painting medium. Dip in with a palette knife. Don't get too much. Get a little bit. Okay, that's plenty. Put the top on the medium. Can't say that often enough. Get the small brush. Okay, now, anything that saves time, you want the part that you're painting to be close to your pigment. Every time your arm is in the air is wasted time. So we try to be as efficient as possible, and we're dipping into the olive green. Here's a rose bud. We're painting around. That is a rose bud right there. It's very possible that when I finish with this process of painting in negative space, painting around, this is a clematis leaf, right? Painting there. Now we're painting up to the rose. This is of dark value next to a dark value, olive green, dark value on the rose, and that will help to make the rose pop out less, because there will, although there'll be a color, a hue change from maroon to olive green, the fact that you stay in the same value, that's how light or dark something is, will help to make them look like they belong together. So if I had changed both hue, that is the color, and value, light or dark, it would make it really a very strong contrast. By changing only one element, either hue or value, the contrast is not as great. So we're continuing to paint up to the rose, and here we have a clematis leaf. And you have to remember that with oil painting, it's always possible to go back over another time, a second time, a third time, a fourth time, and continue to build up the colors that you're painting with. And each time you add more pigment, if you're lucky and you know what you're doing, it will get better. If you're unlucky and don't know what you're doing, it may become what they call muddy. Oh dear, what a horror. We don't want muddy. my favorite background colors when I paint oils or acrylics and flowers. It has a vibrancy that I really, really like very much. Very important that we leave a place for a stem there. All right, that otherwise we don't want some flower, leaf looking like it's, just floating out of nowhere. All right, coming along here, working your way around, dab there, dab. Now, if I wanted to be really super, super fussy about all this, I could work with a very, very small, little, tiny brush. But I'm not, in this particular type of painting that I've developed, I've done quite a few grapevine paintings with this, fruits and flowers and so on. I like to be a little bit freer with what I'm doing. So here we kind of want to define that leaf, this stem. All right, now we're working our way up here. This is tricky, we're going to be overlapping, but that's all right. A little bit of overlap with the purple, doesn't bother, it's perfectly okay. All right, down here, there's a stem to be defined. What the trick here is you're defining two things at once. You're defining the stem and you're defining the edge of the leaf. So you have to think about two things at once. That's what makes art so much fun. It's a puzzle, and it's like I always say it's like a chess game. You've got to kind of figure out where you're going. All right, I'm going to get a little greener in here. All right, this is coming around. Defining this leaf, defining the petal, defining the bottom of this leaf. It's going to be a point. This is going to be a curve. All right, there. This is another straight line. This is a leaf. So it gets a straight edge. All right, we're moving on the way up here. We're going to be getting to a little bit. You know what? Let's start at the top, just so you can see what's going on. All right, we're going to really get in here to the sap green. It's just a fun, fun color. And it's so much like shadow in the outdoors. It's a wonderful color. And I may actually end up putting some sap green further down. We'll have to wait and see whether that seems appropriate. There's the vine, there's the stem, edge of the leaf. Right, coming in here. That's the vine. The flower. That was a mistake. Okay, let's move ahead over here. This is the edge of the flower. There's the vine. All right, this is a tricky one here. We're defining the edge of the leaf and the vine and the stem and another leaf all at once. The fact that it overlapped there doesn't matter very much. Now we're defining two leaves at once here. This leaf and that one. Coming around. Whoops, I would have liked a neater, better curve. Let's shorten up that stem for that leaf. That would be a small space. All right, now we've got edge of the flower. This leaf coming around, nice curve. Want a nice curve here. There's a dip, there's a stem. All right, we're coming in here, defining the edge here. This is the flower. All right, there's a leaf, stem, leaf up here. And here, give this a nice curve. And up here, right up there, another curve. You know what's nice, Robert?
What's that?
The grinding sound has gone away.
That's right.
So, it's always tricky when you're outside trying to do some filming or having a party. Whose dog is barking? Which kid is crying? Are the planes going overhead today or are they not? But, you know, that's, we live in it seems rural, but it's really urban. Milton is a wonderful mix of close to a big city, a lot of noise, but it has kind of a suburban feeling about it. That's why people like it. We're on the trolley. Who could believe? Mattapan trolley. So, fun place to live. All right, let's get this start line in there. Okay, we're coming along. I'm hoping I can get this green done. I'm really kind of racing along here because I want to show you how I'm going to take on that rose. I definitely want to. I'm not happy with this, and I'm going to fix that, and I really want you to see how we're going to fix that. All right, we've got just a little bit more to go here, and then we're going to switch over. I believe we're going to switch over to the rose. Almost, just a couple more little strokes here. And then, that was supposed to be a yellow-green stem, remember? And I forgot. However, we can fix that. We can get the yellow-green in there. Having the dark green here is really helping to unite the very striking magenta with the green. It's working. It's interesting, and I am repeating myself, but the reason it's working is because we've got the values together, and that is what is making it fit in. The light and dark element is the same. All right, approaching total background, more or less done. Okay, all right, so here we go. We've got to work with that flower. That flower is going to take a lot of effort, and I'm going to introduce a little bit of the sap green down in here, but we're going to do that later. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to clean the brush, and I am going to show you how I'm going to work with that pinky color that I really, really don't like. You see this color here? In order to lighten up this side of the rose, I introduced white to the red, and it came out kind of this maroony color, lavender, which not what I want. I want the rose to be very, very vivid. So I have to admit, I played around with this upstairs in my studio, and I determined that it works. So I'm going to use the rose color, which is my original color here, and I'm going to go right into the tube. All right, not going to bother, and I'm going to go right over that pink. Is that showing up, Robert?
Yes.
You can see that? Yeah, because this is so important. It's going to reintroduce that vivid, vivid red, which is what I want for this flower. I don't want it looking kind of like it belongs in a funeral parlor. I want it vivid, very vivid. So wherever it had that whitish look, I'm going back over that full strength with rose pigment. Not diluted in any way, just total right out of the tube. And I'm also using that in some of the other areas. Just want to try to get the sharpen. While I'm at it, you see when I was using the green, some of the edges got a little bit blurry. So this is my opportunity to come in with the red and crisp up those edges. Yeah. All right. See, this is a more vivid color than most artists would probably want. It's more dynamic. It makes a stronger statement, but I really like getting rid of the color that was underneath. Now, why can I do this? I can do this because several hours have gone by since this morning. What time were we out here filming? We're out here filming at 11,
yeah.
And it's almost 5 o'clock. Right? So this has been drying for almost 5 hours, and that's why I can go back over it. Now, you know what I think would be fun? I'm just going to risk something. Why not risk something? The question is, what would happen if I introduce some of this red up here? Right in there. I think I'm going to do it. I think we're going to just... All right, just a little bit. Not very much. Okay, yeah, just a tiny... Now, why? It helps to unite the two flowers. Yes, they're very different flowers. It also adds a little bit more of a striking, a diversity to the coloration of this flower. Yeah, I think that's good. I don't want to overdo it. I think that's about it. Now we're going to do one last thing, and then this painting is not finished, but we're going to stop the filming, and what I'm going to do is finish the painting, and then I will come back and we'll film a little bit more, maybe tomorrow morning. I did bring down Naples yellow, and what I want to try now to show you, it won't be worked exactly, but I hope I can get the Naples yellow open. Let me see here. Look at this, I've got green all over my hands. Oh boy. Oh good, there it goes. If what I should have handy is a pliers, which is a basic part of everybody's oil painting equipment, but my pliers are upstairs. So again, working right out of the tube, I'm going to dabble in some yellow. Just kind of, I think that's all. And this also needs to have a little bit of the yellow. So this is just a beginning on this. And I would use a narrower brush. It has to wait till it dries. I'd like a little bit more realism in the center of both of these blooms, but I just want to show you how this is what we would start with here. And by the time I finish it, it'll have quite a different look. Now another thing that might happen, it's too close to the green. You see the yellow green, it's way too close to the yellow green. So it is going to have to be a more vivid green. Another thing that might, let me just see, yeah, I might end up taking a little bit of this Naples yellow and just introducing it on some of the forward parts of some of these leaves. I think that would add yet another layer of complexity that might be kind of interesting. And I can tell this painting's got a long way to go in terms of the background. Certainly this has to be coped with. This is just a blob right now, and it has to be defined, and it has to have a center and so on. But I think this is where we're going to stop for today, and another hour, maybe hour and a half on this will bring it to completion. Okay, it's the next morning. You can see I've changed my clothes. As I tell my students, you never know when you're going to paint your masterpiece. Well, this is not exactly my masterpiece, but I'm surprised at how much I do like this painting. So I had it out looking at it this morning while I was having my morning tea, And I realized that I could improve this painting if I make the leaves that are behind the rose leaves. This is a rose leaf, this is a rose leaf, a cluster of rose buds here. That if I make the background leaves here this same kind of milky green, the rose leaves are going to pop forward, and that's going to provide a structural framework to support the very vivid rose. So imagine this line, and this line will become much more prominent if I reduce the background so it's less important. I'm very pleased with the way the rose came out. I think that's one of the reasons why I want to continue to pursue this painting. Another mistake I made by choosing to use this cheap paper is that I've painted too close to the edge. So if I wanted to frame it, I would lose a very significant area around the outside. So in just a minute, we're going to shift positions and I'll show you the color I'm going to paint the background leaves. I'm trying to recreate this color, and I can't remember whether I used the olive green or I used the sap green. I'm introducing a little blue to give it a kind of a bluer cast. That means up here is going to be yellow green and down here is going to be blue green. And I think that's probably the color I'm going to use. So we're going to take one of our smaller brushes and I'm going to have to add some mixing here, but oh yes, I think this is going to work. I'm going to move the color from a yellow green to a blue green for everything that's behind the rose leaf, and then I think it'll pop out. And I'll show you the painting when I get done. Okay, thanks for watching. So I finished this painting. This really is done. What I did was to suppress the background leaves by adding a blue, a sky blue in there throughout. I also added more sap green in here to push that back. And I did have to resort to an additional color, zinc yellow, in order to bring the rose buds forward and the leaves forward. So while I had that yellow, I also tweaked up here at the top, added dashes slash, of yellow up here to pull this forward. So the background leaves are no longer as monochromatic as they were. And I think it's greatly enhanced. And this is what's fun about oil and painting, is you can come in and add another layer and really push your painting into a more lively and diverse kind of a look. All right, well, thank you very much for watching, and we will do more outdoor painting in the future. We're going to move to Bob's Rose Garden, which is really spectacular and full bloom. So hope to see you next week. Beth Neville, Art and Life. Thank you for watching.